Hello, and welcome to day 21 of Business English 1. Obviously, you have been working on your demonstration presentation videos. Just as a reminder, those are due this Wednesday. That will give me time to put those into a file so that you can watch those during your class time on Thursday. So that will actually be your class for this week on Thursday, is to watch all of the demonstration videos for your class. And there will also be, similar to what we've done before, some sort of worksheet for you to respond to the demonstrations that you watch. So your class on Thursday will basically be on YouTube, you watching all of those videos. There will not be, I will not do a YouTube lecture on Thursday, and we will not do these on Zoom. You will do them on your own during class time or whenever on Thursday. Since everything will be on YouTube, you can do them on your own schedule. Okay? All right, so today, because you're finishing up your demonstration presentations, today I want to introduce you to your final presentation. In this course, basically your main presentations were Boom Diata, and now your demonstration. And then you will have a final presentation which will take place during the last week of the semester. That will be the week beginning June 22nd. And based on the survey results, it looks like we will be doing these online also. There's still a lot of uncertainty about the virus and whether it would even be possible to try to do face-to-face classes that week, whether it would be safe, whether it would even be possible. And I know that some of you are not in Incheon or near Incheon, so it would be very difficult for you to come to the campus just to do those presentations. Plus the fact that between now and then, we don't know what's going to happen. As you know, there's been a recent outbreak very near Inha University and a little bit of exposure on campus. So it's important for us to be careful and to be safe, and it's quite possible that that some of you may have to be in self-isolation during that time. And so rather than dealing with all of those complications, I think it's better and wiser if we go ahead and just plan on those being done on YouTube. So those will actually be due the week before that. Let me look here real quick. On June 18th, June 18th, we will actually do a Zoom class. I will have you do your presentations live on Zoom to a small group of other students. So like one group will present to another group. So I'll put like two groups in a breakout room, and you will present to each other just as practice, to give you some live practice, and that won't be graded. Your grade for that day will be participation. We'll be doing it. But that won't affect your final grade, really. It won't affect your presentation grade. It's just part of participation and attendance. And then your actual videos will be due like that following Monday morning, so that I can again compile those and make them available for everybody else to watch. And so that will be your assignment for that week, Monday and Thursday, is to watch those final presentations. Okay? And we'll have other classes, obviously, between now and then. So today, I just want to give you an introduction to what you're going to be talking about, what your final presentation will involve. Okay? So, as you know, the Olympics is a huge event, a global event, and it's not just a global event, but it is also a very, uh, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, there's a lot of money involved in the Olympics. The training, the transportation, the accommodations, the facilities, the stadiums, the ice rinks, the swimming pools, the venues, all of the different types of venues for all of the different sports, all of the marketing, the products, the advertising, the sponsorships, the ticket sales, the television broadcasting rights, and all of the advertising that goes with that. It is there's a lot of money involved in the Olympics. And so for the past couple of years, we've been doing Olympic presentations. And I was kind of inspired by this, of course, because of the Pyeongchang 2018 Olympics, which obviously was here in Korea, and then the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, scheduled for this year, and then the Winter Olympics in 2022 in Beijing. And I don't know what happened to my slide there, but the last two got cut off. And even beyond that, the 2032 Summer Olympics, North and South Korea are planning to place a joint bid for those 2032 Olympics. So in this 6-year period, with 2018, 2020, 2022, the International Olympic Committee actually made a decision to kind of focus on Asia, to increase Asia's involvement and enthusiasm and participation in the Olympics. So it was intentional that these three games, Seoul, Tokyo, and Beijing, were all held back to back. And now in just another 12 years, there's the potential that there could be another Summer Olympics here on the Korean Peninsula. And this is one of the things, this is the thing that we were looking at, is these Olympic partners. These are the global sponsors for the Olympics. Companies that I'm sure you're familiar with, at least most of them. Coca-Cola, Alibaba, Atos, Bridgestone, Dow, P&G, Panasonic, Omega, Intel, GE, Samsung, Toyota, and Visa. These are the global sponsors, and they pay a lot of money to be Olympic sponsors. And so your final presentation would be to choose one of these companies, to do company history, analysis, maybe a SWOT analysis, 3 Ps, talk about them and talk about their sponsorship of the Olympics. And then this happened. Obviously, this year, things have changed. With the coronavirus, COVID-19, this semester has not gone as anyone planned or expected. the 2020 Tokyo Olympics have been postponed, which is a massive logistical nightmare for the athletes, their trainers, airlines, tour companies, the venues, the hotels, the restaurants, the food suppliers, medical personnel. The logistics of postponing the Olympics is massive. It is huge. This is one of the largest global events, and to have to change it is a big deal, a really big deal. And I'm sure you know it has been postponed until next summer in 2021. Interestingly, and I think it makes sense, they will still call it Tokyo 2020 Olympics, even though it will be held in 2021. And I think they're doing that just for consistency and to avoid confusion, because the Olympic Games are held every 2 years. Summer Olympics every 4 years, Winter Olympics every 4 years on alternating schedules. So there is an Olympics every 2 years. So this will still be Tokyo 2020. Hopefully it will be able to go ahead as now planned next summer in 2021. So with that, and with the world dealing with this coronavirus crisis, this global pandemic, I decided to make a change in the final presentations. And I kind of got the idea after seeing what some companies were doing in response to the crisis. And one of the first stories I saw was out of South Korea. This article is from March and says South Korea's soju companies donate alcohol to sanitizer makers during a virus crisis. And if we just read this real quick here, makers of soju, South Korea's national drink. Is it the national drink? I know it's one of the favorites. How many of you like soju? And one of the world's best-selling spirits. Spirits are like distilled alcohol. Are jumping into the fight. They're getting involved. Jumping into the fight on the largest outbreak of coronavirus outside China by sharing their stockpiles of alcohol with makers of sanitizers. The stockpile, that's like their inventory. Disinfectants, such as hand sanitizers, are flying off the shelves. They're selling very quickly. They're flying off the shelves, along with medical-grade masks, not just the low-quality masks, but medical-grade, like the N95, or what are they, K94, KF94. As infections in South Korea have surged past 5,000 in just over a month since its first patient was diagnosed. So this is back when the virus was really spreading quickly here in South Korea. And some of these soju companies took the alcohol base for the soju and donated it to help in the fight. It says South Korean soju makers have responded to soaring ethanol demand. Ethanol is that type of alcohol. Soaring, increasing very rapidly. That's a good word for stock prices and inflation and demand. Soaring ethanol demand for sanitizers by donating the alcohol that goes into the drink. A distilled spirit with 17% to 20% alcohol by volume, traditionally based on rice, but now often wheat or potatoes. Ethanol demand for disinfection has grown, while supply is limited. We have decided to provide it. And this was from Daesun Distilling, based in Busan. And I think that's the first company I saw that was doing this, that was donating the alcohol to help produce sanitizer, hand sanitizer here in Korea. Says to banish the virus, the company, to banish is to get rid of, to throw out, to ban, basically. To banish the virus, the company has pledged to donate 32 tons of ethanol for use in disinfecting buildings and public places in Busan and southeastern Daegu. Of course, Daegu was the city at the center of South Korea's outbreak. Okay, so that really impressed me, that these companies were taking the product that they use to make soju, to make money, that they were taking that base, that inventory, and donating it to the governments and to manufacturers of sanitizers to help in this fight against coronavirus. One of the first ones I saw from the US was this. Says they used to make MLB uniforms. Now they're making medical masks and gowns. MLB, Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball. And they call this Major League changes. If something is Major League, it's a big deal. It's not something small. Says Major League Baseball, Fanatics, using jersey materials to make hospital gear. So Major League Baseball, Fanatics is the name of the company that makes the jerseys, the uniforms, the shirts, pants, and such for the players. Interesting, if we look at the statistics here, when this screenshot was taken, total cases in the world were about 500,000. That is now well over 4 million. And total cases in the U.S. was just 78,000. Now that is, I don't know exactly, 1.5 million, something like that. And deaths, sadly, are about 100,000. So about 100 times more than they were at this time. And this was just March 29th. So very rapid escalation in the number of cases and the number of deaths around the world. But this company, Fanatics, this is a Major League Baseball is teaming up with is like joining together, cooperating with sports apparel retailer. Sports apparel, that's clothing, apparel. Retailer to help with a national shortage of personal protective equipment for healthcare workers. And that's a term you'll see a lot, PPE. They'll use the abbreviations. That's personal protective equipment. And if you followed the news at all, you've heard that term mentioned and used. The personal protective equipment, that's the masks, gloves, face shields, the gowns that hospital workers need to protect themselves from the virus. So it says here, MLB and Fanatics are changing production from jerseys to masks and gowns for those on the front lines of the fight against coronavirus. The front lines, that's like a military reference. If you're on the front lines of the battle, you're directly in contact with, directly facing the enemy. So the frontline workers here would be EMTs. EMTs, that would be emergency medical technicians. EMTs, they'd be the people in the ambulances that would respond if somebody calls an ambulance. EMTs, doctors, nurses, people working in nursing homes, any kind of hospital or healthcare facility, as well as like police and firefighters, because they are also what we consider first responders. If there's a 911 call, they are the first people to respond. And they don't know when they go into that what danger they might face. So the first responders, EMTs, ambulance, police, firemen, hospital workers are all these people on the front lines. They're the ones dealing most directly with it. The shortage is causing healthcare workers to resort to desperate measures and save supplies intended for a single usage. So, for example, the masks are normally supposed to be used only once and then thrown away. But a lot of hospitals are requiring workers to wear them all day for like an 8 or 10-hour shift. Then they put them in a paper bag and wear them again the next day, which is not standard practice and is really not safe. And you may have seen pictures, desperate measures, doing things that are kind of a last resort. Things like making gowns out of garbage bags, out of plastic trash bags, because they didn't have the proper equipment. So a lot of companies have gotten involved in helping against the fight against coronavirus. Jersey fabric, the fabric, the material that is being used to make the jerseys, the baseball jerseys, will be used to make masks and hospital gowns in Fanatics manufacturing plant in Easton, Pennsylvania. MLB and Fanatics will pay for the costs, so they're providing these free. So you can see here in the background, looks like this is like St. Louis Cardinals, I believe, Philadelphia Phillies. They're using this material to make these gowns and masks. The first batches, the first a batch would be like the quantity that they produced. So if they made 500 in a day, that would be the first batch, the first group of these masks and gowns. The first batches were made out of uniforms from the Philadelphia Phillies and New York Yankees. The MLB said as production and distribution grows, they'll use other teams' jersey fabric. So they started out with those, and so this is the material, the fabric, that baseball players would normally be wearing, but they're not playing baseball right now. So baseball players don't need the uniforms at the moment, but first responders, doctors, nurses need that equipment. So that's this company is jumping in to help with that. MLB announced this month that it was pushing back, delaying the opening of the 2020 season indefinitely amid the coronavirus crisis. So here's a close-up of a couple of the masks, and you can see they're using the striped jersey material there. This is an article from Business Insider, and this is about 12 innovative ways companies are helping people affected by the coronavirus. And this is, you can find a lot of information like this just on Google. If you just Google like companies that are helping during coronavirus, maybe coronavirus crisis, or you could, instead of coronavirus, you could write COVID-19. But if you Google this, if you just Google this phrase, Google companies that are helping during the crisis, I did that, and there are many articles. 100 companies, 50 companies that are doing this. An ongoing list of companies that are providing help. So there's a lot of information out there about different companies that are making an effort to help. They talk here, MGM Resorts. MGM, you may be most familiar with them from movie production, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. On their movie logo at the beginning of the movies, they're the ones that have the lion that roars, MGM. MGM Resorts International. They do casinos, hotels, resorts. Donated 480,000 pounds of food to food banks and communities across the U.S. And here's just a little picture of it. These are the foil pans like you would see used in food service, hotels, and restaurants. Milk and looks like celery there. All sorts of fresh vegetables here. But they are donating food to help because a lot of people have lost their jobs because of this crisis. And so they're helping out with people that need food. In the U.S., we call that a food bank. It's like an organization, a place that gathers food for people in need, and then they distribute it to individuals and families in need. So that would be a food bank. So they're, and that amount of food is equivalent to 400,000 meals. And they also pledged as like promised, $1 million of disaster relief into an employee emergency grant fund that will help employees pay bills and cover unexpected expenses. So they're also trying to help their own employees. Back when U.S. universities first went online, that was back in March. American schools start the spring semester in January. So in March, they were about halfway through the semester. And they have, generally they have like a 1-week spring break, a 1-week vacation in the middle there. And what happened was that was around the time that the virus was really exploding in the U.S. and or when it first started exploding. And so it was during spring break when a lot of these schools said, or right before spring break, a lot of these schools like Harvard and Yale and other major schools said, okay, when you go away for spring break, which a lot of students go home or they go on vacation, they go to beaches in Florida or travel somewhere else. The schools said, go home for spring break, don't come back to campus. And so suddenly there were all these students that had nowhere to go. Many of them were, on the other side of the country from their families, and they didn't have anywhere locally to go. Many of them were international students who couldn't just pack everything in a suitcase and go home. So this company called U-Haul, they rent like trucks and they have storage facilities, and it's where U-Haul, you move yourself. It's a self-moving company where you rent a small truck or a trailer. And so U-Haul decided to help here, and they're offering 30 days of free storage to college students who were displaced due to the outbreak. So they have storage facilities, self-storage. That's not real common in Korea. I've seen it a little bit, but they'd have like barns or units in a building where you can put your things and you pay a monthly rental fee. And so U-Haul just did this to give students a month to figure out what to do, to make other arrangements, to move back home or find an apartment off campus, because so many of them lived in college dormitories that they had to move out of. And they were doing that for any college student in need, as long as they had the space to do it. I'm not going to read through all of these. They're on the slides here. You can pause and read them. Okay. Stop and Shop stores are opening earlier for senior citizens and immunocompromised people. So immunocompromised, that means with a weakened immune system. So people with maybe like cancer patients or people with respiratory illnesses, with asthma or something like that. And as you know, senior citizens, older people, the virus is generally more dangerous to them. So this chain, and a lot of stores have done this in the U.S., they have special hours, usually like the first hour or so in the morning, where it's only senior citizens or people with other medical issues, where it's not safe, especially not safe for them to be around a lot of people. So this is to so that they can shop without being exposed to larger crowds. So a lot of stores have done this kind of thing. And again, you can stop and read through the entire description here if you would like. Louis Vuitton. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Louis Vuitton. The parent company of Louis Vuitton will use its cosmetics and perfume manufacturing facilities to make free alcohol-based sanitizer amid the global shortage. Amid means like in the middle of, during, okay? Because there were a lot of places like this where the hand sanitizer was out of stock in the U.S. So they were going to make that available. And that's LVMH, that's Moet Hennessy, that's a French company behind Louis Vuitton, Fenty Beauty, Benefit Cosmetics, that they would be making hand sanitizer. Also, I forgot to crop this one. Okay, sorry about that. You could see the top of my head as I was focused on the computer just a little while ago, putting together this presentation for you to change the topic for your final presentations. So sorry about the the screenshot there. L'Oreal, the cosmetics company, also from Paris, will also start producing hand sanitizer in its facilities. Burger King is giving away 2 free kids meals for purchases made on the Burger King app. And they said the fast food chain is giving away 2 kids meals with any purchase on the app. And what they said is, we have the ability to help feed America. And I know that McDonald's in the U.S. was giving away free meals to first responders, to police, fire, hospital workers. If they went there, they would, and they actually put it in one of the Happy Meal boxes to try to make people smile a little bit. My oldest sister is a nurse in the U.S., and I know that she did that at least once, went to McDonald's and got a free meal there. And I know of other restaurants that were giving free meals or desserts or some sort of special discounts to like healthcare workers and people like that, those people on the front lines. Uber Eats donating 300,000 meals to first responders and healthcare workers. Again, the first responders, that would be like the EMTs, police, and firefighters. And they were waiving delivery fees. If you waive something, W-A-I-V-E, that is pronounced just like waive, but waive here means they're not charging the fee. If you waive a requirement, you kind of excuse it, or you don't count it. You say, oh, no, we don't need to do that. You waive it. You don't enforce the regulation or the requirement. Here's another one, a designer, Christian Siriano's sewing team. S-E-W, sewing, like with needle and thread. Sewing team is making masks for healthcare workers. And this, they're located in New York State. So the governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, asked businesses in New York to help manufacture more medical supplies needed to fight the coronavirus. And a lot of these people he says here, I have a full sewing team still on staff working from home. So they were doing the social distancing, working from home, but they were going to be sewing these masks for the medical workers from their own homes. Apple CEO Tim Cook announced that Apple will be donating millions of masks to health workers in the US and Europe. To every one of the heroes on the front lines, we thank you. And again, this front lines, that's normally used for military battles, but in this case, it's used for a medical battle. Facebook donated 720,000 masks that were left over from the California wildfires. So when they had wildfires in California, a lot of people needed masks to breathe because of all the smoke coming from those. And so they donated these masks that they had purchased in case they needed them during wildfires. You may be familiar with Johnson & Johnson. They make a lot of cosmetics and baby wash and lotion and things like that. They have a lot of products here in Korea. They've donated masks, isopropyl alcohol, and contact lenses to hospitals and medical workers. Other partnerships you may have seen, things like the auto industry making ventilators, Ford Motor Company in the U.S. There's another one, a company in Vietnam that is partnering with companies in the U.S. to produce ventilators, these medical ventilators that can help people in respiratory distress to breathe. So they're converting some of their assembly lines for autos into production lines for these ventilators. And these are just a few examples of what companies are doing to help. And I know there are many more than this. And I know there are many in Korea. I've seen stories about things that Samsung is doing and other companies are doing. One of the places I've heard about a lot of those is on CNN. They have a little feature called Impact Your World. And in that, they talk about some of these companies that are doing things to help out during this global pandemic. So what I would like you to do for your final presentation, choose a company. Find a company that is doing something to help during this global health crisis, during this coronavirus pandemic. Find a company. It can be Korean. It can be anywhere in the world. It could be from the US, Europe, other parts of Asia, Africa. It doesn't matter. Find a company somewhere in the world that is doing something in the fight against coronavirus. Choose a company, and then I want you to give us some background, some history on that company. So company history, background. If you want, you can do like a 3P analysis. You can do a SWOT analysis. Give us some information on that company, and then talk to us about what they are doing, how they are using their expertise, their engineering skills, their distribution system, their AI, their technology, their design capability, their staff, whatever it is that they're using, that they're able to take that and use it in this fight against coronavirus. Talk to us about what they're doing and how they are using their skills and people and resources and technology, whatever they're doing to help in this fight. Talk to us about that and present that to us. And we'll be talking over the next couple of weeks about kind of how to organize that, how to structure it. We'll be talking more about visual aids, and we'll be looking at more detailed transition sentences, and sort of a structure of a presentation in more detail. This will be a group presentation. I would suggest 4 people per group probably would be good. Possibly 5, especially in one of the classes we have 22 students. So if we had a couple groups of 5, that would work out well. And then like 3 groups of 4. Okay. So again, because of the situation here, I will let you choose your own teams. You may want to work with people you worked with before on Boom Diata. That's fine. If you want to make new teams, that's fine too. Okay. I will leave that up to you, and we'll work on that later. Okay. Don't panic about that right now. Let's finish up these demonstration presentations first. Okay. We'll do those this week, and then next week we'll talk some more about this. Okay. All right, guys. Have a great evening, and I look forward to seeing all of your demonstrations on Thursday. Thank you.